The moment I went there, he said, "See, Mr. Nair, my CIBIL score is about 830.
Wow.
And my bank says for my equipment, they'll charge me 10%. Why should I pay 10%? So that is the awareness. I wanted 8.5%. So you have good score, you have a right for cheaper credit. You have a good score, all banks are financing. The excess is not a problem for him because everybody want to finance because score is good.
Yeah.
But it's now negotiating for price.
Folks, welcome to Paisa Vaisa, your go-to podcast for everything related to personal finance. I'm Anupam Gupta, your host for today. And continuing on our journey of exploring the credit ecosystem in India, we're about to discuss a vital subject that impacts all of us: financial inclusion. TransUnion CIBIL has played a pivotal role in making credit opportunities accessible to consumers across India, enabled credit institutions to make more informed lending decisions, and supported sustained growth of retail and MSME credit. Joining me on today's episode of Credit Conversation with CIBIL are two esteemed guests from TransUnion CIBIL, Mr. M.V. Nair, an advisor at the organization, and Bhavesh Jain, MD and CEO TransUnion CIBIL. Welcome to the show, Bhavesh, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. Great
Thank
to
you
have
for
you.
having us here.
Yeah, let's start with the basics. Our listeners who have just interacted with credit, quote unquote, or are planning to after they listen to our conversation, could you explain what a credit bureau does and how they've evolved? Bhavesh, take this one.
So, credit bureaus got started in early 2000 basis the Siddiqui Committee, and they are governed by the Credit Information Companies Act 2005. CIBIL was one of the initial credit bureaus to start in India and has been one of the leading credit bureaus in country. Now, the functioning of credit bureau works that all the credit institutions in the country submit their credit data to us on a regular basis. We take that data, combine it, and on an individual basis or for an MSME, that reported data is combined together and displayed it back to the consumers or the MSMEs in form of a credit information report and a score. Now, the interesting thing is that a common man today on the street understands credit score as CIBIL score. And that journey has been more than 20 plus years. In fact, we'll complete 25 years of our operations as an organization in this country, and really feel proud of the fact that we have worked very closely with the consumers, the MSMEs, the credit institutions in creating that awareness. Now, the functioning is that you have all these data reported, and basis the reporting, the credit institutions pull this credit report and score, and at different stages of the consumer life cycle, they take this credit report and they do decisioning. Now, what has this done? It has ensured that a consumer gets a fair chance to be evaluated by different credit institutions based upon their repayment history, their utilization levels, their credit exposure, and there are multiple such parameters. Now, as a credit bureau, all these data gets reported and in a very secured manner, and we lay a lot of emphasis in terms of data security, data quality, because the entire country's data is in different shape and form.
Yeah.
You have different variations of name, addresses, all those data points. So when this data gets submitted, there are multiple data quality checks done to ensure that when the report is delivered back to the consumer, it's in the shape and form which a consumer, an MSME, and credit institutions, all three of them can understand, interpret, and apply it on different credit decisioning activities.
So, I want to come to you. Someone that's had such a long career in the financial system.
Yes.
What do you think would be the role of credit bureaus today? Because
Yeah.
our ecosystem has evolved also over
Yes.
a long period of time. So, what do you think is the role of credit bureaus today?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, today and tomorrow we have, the role is very cut out for us as we move to the Viksit Bharat journey.
Yeah.
But let's look at slightly behind. I'll give you some anecdotes. Even in 2010, if I have to say my branch identifies a MSME client, he recommends. that I want to finance him 25 lakhs. This comes to the sanctioning authority. And there is no way you can do the due diligence except the branch managers connect. Then we in the bank, I was chairman of Union Bank at the time, in 20 centers in the country, we had a due diligence group. There were 4 or 5 of them. What do? They go there, talk to the creditors, talk to the employees, understand what is, how it looks like, then send a due diligence report. Based on that, the decision is taken. Now see the time taken. First the branch manager does, he recommends. So not less than 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
The bureau has collapsed it today up to 5-6 crores. It is as per the policy of the most of the banks, it's instant.
Wow.
That is the sort of what bureaus have done. Now the core to this is the data. What Mr. Bhavesh beautifully put it across. What do we do in the bureau? We make use of the information to enable faster and cheaper access to credit, whether it is businesses or individuals. So for example, if my background is good, all that the bureau says is his intention to pay, his ability to pay, based on the past record, which is what the data is all about. But that the lender will have other footprints of his transactions. Based on that, he takes a call. That's what I think bureau does.
Very interesting. Bhavesh, everything boils down to trust, okay? Because that is truly the decision maker in today's era where everything has become commoditized. So a lender can actually evaluate a borrower's trustworthiness through a credit score. Let's talk about credit scoring. Obviously, our audience is familiar with the term, but can you explain the credit score's importance in the larger financial picture, and how does it impact my or a consumer's access to credit?
Really pertinent question.
Yeah.
So, credit score, or if I may say CIBIL score in context of India, it's a 3-digit score, ranges from 300 to 900. The higher the score of an individual, high likelihood for an individual to get loan in this country. Now, the CIBIL score is based on few parameters. First is in terms of credit repayment history, credit exposure, credit balance build-up, utilization levels, the credit hungriness. All those parameters go into giving an CIBIL score to an individual. Now, what has CIBIL score done, as Mr. Nair rightly said, is that earlier a credit manager is to take days and months to evaluate a credit file, whether for a housing loan or for a business loan or for any of those credit needs. Now, basis the CIBIL score, today the bank decides the cutoff, whether it's say 750 or 775, based upon their credit policy and their risk appetite. And what it does is that it ensures that when an individual applies for a loan to a bank or an NBFC, the credit appraisal happens at different stages.
Sure.
So the first stage is that basis the CIBIL score, a credit application is processed further. What it does is that it ensures that the consumer knows upfront that will this credit institution be keen to give me a loan or not. So it saves the consumer's time. At the same time, it ensures that the credit institution knows which applications to proceed further. And in that entire journey, the credit cost comes down for the institution. The anxiety for a consumer, whether he or she will get a loan or not, is actually killed. And it brings in objectivity. And we used to run actually a campaign when we launched CIBIL score, is that आगे बढ़ने के लिए नाम नहीं नंबर ज़रूरी है. And that's so relevant even today that when you go and apply, the first thing the individual asks is, what is your CIBIL score? And why it is so? Because it is a reflection of the credit repayment behavior of that individual. At the same time, it gives a comfort, it gives a sort of confidence to the lender that if an individual has a high CIBIL score, the likelihood to pay on time, because end of the day the credit institution is taking the risk, they are giving the depositors money to that consumer. So it's the responsibility of the institution to ensure that the money is given to the right individual. And as you rightly said, CIBIL score today has become the trust artifact in the financial institution, and the same time ensures that the individual gets loan in the shortest possible time. You don't have to look at tons of data points to evaluate the credit worthiness. The first level check becomes through the CIBIL score, and that's where the CIBIL score becomes a very key parameter for an individual to monitor and track on a regular basis.
I think I'll just add one thing
Please.
here. When we started off, we said there are four stakeholders we deal with. Okay, so what should be our overall goal? First, we should be the trusted partner to our members, that is lending institutions, banks, NBFCs or cooperative banks. We should be the trusted partner for consumers and businesses.
Sure.
Because when they get a score or a rank, it should be authentic rank. So they have a passport to the good thing in life. We should be the trusted partner to the regulator, because regulator wants us to improve the health in the system. That is both in the financial ecosystem as well as the financial health of the consumers and businesses. I should manage my health better. I'll come to that a little later. And we should be the trusted partner to the government of India. The entire financial inclusion journey, only when the trust is there, it will go faster. Otherwise, it will still be slow. So that is the basic foundation on which we build this institution.
Sure.
And we are there now. I mean, we feel we are there.
So good credit score can change a consumer's life, right? I mean, when you have access to credit, it releases, like you said, a lot of anxiety. And that brings me to like what Sir said about financial inclusion, right? So I want this question to be answered by both of you. I'll start with you, Bhavesh. How have credit bureaus like TransUnion CIBIL played a role in driving financial inclusion in India?
So I would say we have played this role for more than 20 years, along with all the credit institutions, government bodies, semi-regulatory bodies. The entire ecosystem came in together. And I'll say we do multiple activities. Obviously, your podcast becomes one more channel for us to educate and reach out to the consumers through different publications. But most important is we work with a lot of institutions. Recently, we are doing a big campaign with ICAI, the Chartered Accountants Governing Body. We are doing a MSME Yatra across the length and breadth of the country. We ran a similar program with CIBIL called Saksham. Again for MSMEs, through multiple media houses, reach out to the end consumer and at the same time ensure that we reach out to the end consumer through all formats, whether it's print media, podcast channel, to regional press coverage. And most important thing which we have done over last 20 years is actually a physical touch point, that we along with a credit institution be in a location, call a few hundred or a few thousand MSMEs, consumers, and go deep into the Bharat. Talk about the importance of good repayment history, talk about maintaining a good CIBIL score, and not just credit bureaus. To be honest, the credit institutions have played a pivotal role along with us. And through the sort of underwriting objective, the financial inclusion and education has also happened. Let me take an example. Today, the entire banking industry have moved to risk-based pricing, which means that they link their risk objectives to the CIBIL score of an individual. So when an individual actually goes to the branch of a bank or an NBFC, they get asked that what's your CIBIL score? If they have a good CIBIL score, they are given the best terms and conditions in terms of rate of interest, tenure, and all these sort of relevant terms and conditions in a credit application. Now, this creates a lot of awareness in the consumer that if I maintain a good CIBIL score, I am likely to get the best terms and conditions from all the financial institutions in the country.
Sure.
At the same time, when you look at it, the journey of the country, when you look at the data points, is that early 90s, you had a very low credit penetration. We already have 65 crore individuals whose credit data has been reported to CIBIL.
Sure.
Now, on a population of 1.4 billion, when you put different thresholds of age, income, employability, all those aspects, we have come a long way in terms of credit penetration.
Yeah.
And why is this possible? Because a credit institution today takes minutes.
Yeah.
If it's an existing customer for a bank, it takes few seconds. In fact, you would have seen many hoardings across the country where it says that you can get a loan in 10 seconds if it's an existing to bank customer. Now, that's all been possible basis the availability of data, because data ensures information asymmetry is resolved. A bank is able to take a credit decision instantly. A consumer is able to get access to credit whenever he or she needs it. So I think so the entire ecosystem came in, post the economic liberalization, the banking license, the credit bureaus coming in place in early 2000. Everybody came together along with government institution, different large financial institution coming together and playing their responsible part to educating the consumers and ensuring financial inclusion. And when you see in the recent times, the biggest growth on credit in last 5 years have happened in the semi-urban and rural location. So financial inclusion has ensured that the credit growth in the country happens in the true Bharat.
Yeah, very interesting. So your thoughts, financial inclusion?
Yeah, it's I think from my journey in the banking onwards, I'll start. It's important to start that way. You know, I chose banking is also because we come from that era where if you see Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai movie, you see the poverty then. And when I graduated, I was studying in Mangalore. It's in Karnataka. And Kasaragod is in Kerala. So about 50 kilometers. My grandparents were in Kasaragod. We were in Mangalore. And my father used to send the grains and whatever. But all of a sudden, because of shortage of grains, it used to be, you can't take it to Kerala. That poverty. That drove me to a point that I should get into a job which can make a difference to the people. That's what the banking industry. And, first financial inclusion, there are many actions, but one concrete action to take it to the people. We tried a branch, but you can't open branches in 600,000 villages. Is the business correspondence model, which came in somewhere in 2006. And, I had a few sort of initiatives. One, we worked with a company called Fino. Now it's a bank. So it's a handheld device. You go to a person and give. So we held a program in Gurgaon, where all the small vendors, people. So our message is simple. You are coming here from UP and Bihar. You are not able to remit money. You have to keep your cash. By the time you go back, some of the cash may be missed. You never know. So we will facilitate this. So he gets a card, like we have now Aadhaar card. At that time, a card. When the people started interacting, one gentleman came and said, "Sir, more than that, you gave me an identity."
Wow.
I said, "How does it matter?" It's to say, "Sir, because I come from Bihar, up to late night I work. When I come here to where I stay, the policeman will catch me and ask me, 'Who are you?' Today I have an identity." That is the difference this made. So I give this example to say, from there to today, when we say fraction of second credit, there are few elements in financial inclusion. One is your account to be open. We didn't have account open.
Right.
This started after Aadhaar came in. So when Mr. Nandan Nilekani went to, you started UADI, I was chairman of Indian Bank Association. I went to him, and through banking industry we first started off. Today Aadhaar almost everybody has.
Yeah.
That is in 2010. 2016 UPI came.
Yeah.
What it meant is you have a branch account because Prime Minister Modi Sahab pushed Jan Dhan. Everyone has got a bank account today.
Yeah.
You need to have payment system.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because of UPI, you have payment system. Then you have insurance because Prime Minister's Yojana is there.
Yeah.
Health insurance up to 5 lakhs you get. So you have pension, you have got insurance. Though we may ask, I mean, why is it? Because we have 1 billion people still who need this support.
Sure.
And in case we don't support, we will not have healthy population. Who can? So the financial inclusion by and large has happened. It's a one element of this is credit.
Sure.
That is where what Bhavesh mentioned, we are facilitating credit to happen.
Right.
Credit is slightly difficult. All of this, it is easier.
Yeah.
Credit is difficult.
So, in terms of tangible benefits, Bhavesh, what impact has this had on MSMEs? Right, we spoke a lot about the bureau, its importance, and financial inclusion, but access to credit has always been a challenge for small businesses. So, MSMEs.
So, my personal background is that I come from a family of businessmen, and I have lived around businessmen and businesswomen all my life. And it's interesting in terms of their commitment to their business, to their employees and everything. And credit is an integral part of an MSME's plan, strategy. And in fact, they need credit more than an individual because they have to make payments to their suppliers, to their vendors, to their employees, to multiple sort of entities. Now, what has historically MSMEs done to get credit? They have relied on friends and families, or they have relied on trade credit. Now, with the sort of advancement of credit, MSMEs have been able to get access to credit from the formal sector. And that's a very important aspect for India to achieve its Viksit Bharat dream. Because you have 2/3 of the MSME in the country who are traders. They don't add value to the goods. They buy it from the manufacturer or an wholesaler and they give it back to the consumers or retailers further. Now in this process, the margins are pretty less. With the sort of formalization, obviously that margins have rightfully shrinked further. Now all the credit institutions and CICs have been working to make sure that MSMEs get access to formal credit. Now, why this is important? Because the rate of interest difference between a sort of unorganized credit sector versus to a formal credit sector ranges from 3 to 7%.
Sure.
Now, this can actually help the MSME to improve their margins. Now, when we look at the data point, out of the 7.5-8 crore MSMEs in the country, 3.6 crore MSMEs credit data is reported to CIBIL. Now, we have come a long way, but when you look at the credit penetration, we still have a lot of work at hand because we need to make sure that we are able to ensure 100% credit penetration through the formal sector to these MSMEs. And why it's important? Because one, it helps in terms of the margins. Second is for an emerging economy like India, the MSMEs actually provide employment towards the semi-skilled and unskilled laborers. And now what we have done is that we launched the CIBIL MSME rank. While the CIBIL score existed since the early 2008 for the credit institutions, we opened it for the consumers in 2011 and we launched the CIBIL MSME score in 2017. Now the CIBIL MSME rank again ranges from 1 to 10. 1 to 3 is like the best in class CIBIL MSME rank, and similar to the individual score, if you have a good CIBIL MSME rank, you are entitled to the best rate of interest and terms and conditions in the country. Now today again, like the CIBIL score, the entire credit institution industry relies on the CIBIL MSME rank to give credit to these MSME. And the same way, we have a lot of MSMEs who come on CIBIL.com, access their commercial credit information report and their CIBIL MSME rank, because again, this becomes a trust artifact between an MSME and a credit institution. That if I have a good CIBIL MSME rank, I can get the best terms and condition on my credit requirement. And this is very similar. I'll take, because I started with saying that I come from a business family, that when my father or my family members is to give credit to a new sort of entity or individual, they would make a call to a friend and family saying that I am sort of giving trade credit or credit to this individual or entity for 30 days, 60 days or 90 days. Yeah. Is he or she good enough, or is the firm good enough or not? They would get sort of a response, Sarase, it's good, please go ahead and give it. Similarly today, when a bank gives credit to an MSME, they pull the CIBIL MSME rank, which becomes a reflection of the creditworthiness of an MSME, gives the comfort to the institution, and they do that dispersal. So to your point around MSMEs, MSME is the new retail, that's the future, and as an ecosystem, we should all commit to the cause of MSME further.
Very interesting. So let's wrap this up now. I'd like to get your thoughts, both your thoughts, on the future of credit bureaus in India. The world is one click away, and how are people to navigate the world of credit? Where do you see this industry heading in the next few years, sir? I'll start with you and then Bhavesh.
Yeah, I'll give you one. I stay in a place called Vivaria. In the neighborhood, a family came from US. They came, so they earned a lot of money. They came here, and then I got introduced. And then when I said chairman of CIBIL, she said, "Yeah, Ms. Nair, I'm looking for alliance for my son." And now what I realize is that the horoscope and family background is a pass. What today you need is CIBIL score and blood report.
Okay.
Now, but she said profound. It's a profound truth it is. I started looking at it. You need the health of your financial health, whether it is businesses or individuals. Similarly, you need to maintain your health. So, what she said is the same thing. Today, every year, if you have your medical checkup and you regularly follow your routine, you have a healthy life. Similarly, it is financial health. One has to maintain. If it doesn't maintain, he'll be denied. But if he maintains, what happens? Say, for example, a student, we have what we call it as a new to credit score. He gets an education loan first. In the process, the imprint is already there with the CIBIL. Then when he starts earning, next access to maybe a vehicle loan or home loan is easier. I'll give you another example. I went to my eye surgeon, and he said, the moment I went there, he said, "See, Mr. Nair, my CIBIL score is about 830.
Wow.
And my bank says for my equipment, they'll charge me 10%. Why should I pay 10%? So that is the awareness. I wanted 8.5%. So you have good score, you have a right for cheaper credit. You have a good score, all banks are financing. The excess is not a problem for him because everybody want to finance because score is good. But it's now negotiating for price. So this is the present situation. What happens for the future? That's the question that you asked. So even today, we have 1 billion individuals who are who earn about 85,000 rupees and less.
Sure.
And they are the target group actually. All of them have to go through this journey. Then only by 47, we will be able to reach there. But at the same time, you have nearly 120 million people who earn the best bracket, highest bracket. They come to K-Fintex and things like, the mutual funds, and they come there. then you have another 300 million. But when you say 300 million and 120 million, it is equal to Europe.
Yes.
And a Europe population is a large population.
Yeah.
So you already have there. But this 1 billion, only when we make them to sort of get financially included, they have access to finance, they can build their good life, then Vikasit Bharat happens. That is the journey where we will be playing a very important role.
Sure.
The bureaus will continue to play very important role.
Bhavesh, closing thoughts?
So I would say I'll break it into two components. First is what the future looks like for the industry or the credit institution, what it looks like for the consumer and MSME. So as a credit bureau and credit institution, the future will be in further advancement in the area of data analytics and technology. We have come a long way in terms of that. Today a CIBIL report is delivered in a shorter span than a human takes to blink eye. Okay, so this one could not imagine 30 years back. And why it's important is because today when a consumer goes to make any purchase, can that be fulfilled through credit? Through the proper underwriting tools and process. Now that has changed the buying behavior of a consumer today. If a consumer today actually goes to buy a phone or two-wheeler, they can actually make that purchase, come out of the store within few minutes on credit. Now one could have not imagined this when India got liberalized in 1991, that will reach a stage in the country where today you can walk out with any sort of gadget or vehicle on credit in few minutes. And I anticipate that 10 to 20 years later, not just these sort of consumption lending requirements of an individual, but everything associated which a consumer buys should be available through credit based upon their credit behavior, their CIBIL score, and all these sort of associated parameters. Now that has happened a lot on the consumer space. The future would not just be on the consumer side, but MSMEs. Today a small kirana store guy obviously needs to go through a certain documentation to seek credit, needs to make a call to the supplier or friends and family to get credit on a daily basis. But can we reach a stage where, basis in terms of their cash flows, they can be given a 10,000 rupees credit for 3 days at the click of a button? That's where I see the future of this country for the credit institution, for MSME and consumer, that for every credit demand, all they have to do is that just unlock their mobile phone, sort of give a consent, and they get credit for the individual needs or for their business needs. That's where I see the future.
Fantastic. And on that positive note, this has been an insightful conversation. Thank you so much, both, for sharing your expertise with our audience today. To everyone tuning in, remember that your CIBIL score is not just a number. It's a reflection of your financial health. So stay informed and take steps to improve it. Thank you for tuning into Paisa Vaisa. We'll be back with more interesting conversations in the next episode of Credit Conversations with CIBIL. Until then, stay smart with your credit.